Hi, my name is Alex Konieczny. I'm a historic interpreter here at the beautiful Troy Historic Village. In 1955, Troy became a city, and since then it has grown to a bustling, multicultural city full of people from all over the world. This project, Many Stories, One Heritage, seeks to record the authentic stories of first and second generation Asian American immigrants to this city who now call it home. The following interview you're about to hear is one of 12 interviews we've recorded for the Many Stories, One Heritage project.
I was born in Goa, India, and it's a beautiful place. It's basically they call it like Hawaii of India. You know, it's beautiful beaches it's surrounded by beaches and things like that. So we were a middle class family. My grandfather was a freedom fighter, but he was a lawyer and a very famous one. So even here, when I meet somebody from Goa, they ask me who he, like when I tell them I'm from, my town, and he says, "How are you related to him?" And they say, "Oh, I'm his granddaughter." So it's a big honor that I was, part of the family. And and my father, he worked for government, and he was like a deputy director of CBI, which is like a FBI here. So my parents are no more. And I came to this country in 1987 after I married my husband. So it was an arranged marriage. So we've been married since 1987.
What was your grandfather's name?
He was Vinayak Kaisari, that was his name. And he was a very famous lawyer because Goa was ruled by Portuguese, and in 1961 it was liberated. So, and he was a freedom fighter. I mean, yeah, he helped the freedom fighters. He was their lawyer, and but he volunteered his services, and he even went to jail, I heard. So, but yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where you were born. What was it like there?
So, yeah, I was born in Margao, Goa was the place, but that was my mother's. Mother's parents lived there, so that's how it worked. So mother's, the girl used to go to the parents' house for the delivery. So I was born there, but I grew up in Panji, which is the capital of Goa. So, and since it's the capital, it is surrounded by, it had all the offices and all the government courts and all that stuff, and medical hospital it's public hospital. So we were in the city, and all our relatives who were in like villages, or they would always come to for treatment or any of the office work they needed, because they had to come to the city for all that. So we were always surrounded with relatives and things like that. So always used to people.
So tell me about your immigration experience. What was that like when you first came here?
It was pretty shocking because it was an arranged marriage. That is pretty common back home, because if you don't have a boyfriend, then family arranges the marriage, and you kind of, so mentally you're ready that, okay, I didn't have a boyfriend, so that was the next option. So I was an engineer, and I worked at All India radio station, and one of my assistant engineers, he was a neighbor of my husband's sister. So I had visited them a few times, and they kind of spotted me, and they said, "Oh, who is that?" And that's how it kind of works. And so then through that we had the proposal, and when he came to visit his parents, they said, we met and they somehow arranged everything, and we said okay. And then I come here with him, and I didn't know much about him, and I was very talkative, and he's not. And and then he would, we were in fact, when I came to Michigan, and for maybe few months, and then he got transferred to Kokomo, Indiana. So and then I came in January, which was very, very cold. I had not seen any snow, no, because I come from tropical place, so never worn a sweater in life, and here I am in January, cold, couldn't even open the doors, and it was pretty lonely because I was by myself in the apartment all day. He would go to work like 6:30 a.m. and come back around 6. And then I had never stayed alone anywhere because it's different. My mom used to be home, and we had relatives all the time coming, so it was an experience. And the neighbors wouldn't, you couldn't really see neighbors because everybody stays inside, and it was really difficult when I came. And then when we got transferred, I went to school in Purdue. So he had to go to work in Kokomo, and we lived in Purdue. And then it was like I was out and studying in classes, so that kind of became little better, so I could see people, talk to people, and I like talking and I'm very outgoing. So it was like few months of, and then by then I kind of knew my husband too, because it was hard to get to know him because we just got married and came here. So it was an experience.
So you said you hadn't met him before you got married.
We met like couple times, and that's it. And it was just like, oh, everybody says the family is good, so the boy will be good. But if I have to go back and do that, I will never do that. So it was yeah. So we met, and then we talked, and it was not like I was forced or nothing like that. But yeah, so I liked what he had to say, and he probably liked what I said.
How many years have you been married now?
27, right? It'll be 30 in next year. Not 27. Yeah, see, I'm not even counting.
Had you ever been to the U.S. before you moved here?
No, I had not. In fact, I was traveled in India a few places, but never outside India. So yeah, it was experience, and even going to Purdue was because I had to take like 7:30 in the morning classes because I got admission a little later than and so whatever classes were open I had to take. So I had to walk over there in cold, and the way people, the students sit, that was, they would sit with their legs up on the chairs, when the professor is teaching, and that was very disrespectful back home because you are supposed to, somebody is eating in the class, somebody is drinking in the class, which was not allowed. Me, that's not part of the culture, I guess, back home. And here that was a shock because I'm like, how can they do that, But all those things, that was, but I guess afterwards you get used to those things.
How did you feel about moving here?
Well, initially I cried. I cried so much that I don't think I ever cried back home. So I cried a lot because I was so lonely, and other thing was my parents didn't have a phone at that time. So it used to be, I don't know why, now everybody has a phone and things have changed. It would take a long time to get a phone line, and so for a year or so they didn't have, and then just calling there, it was, and very expensive too, from here to call, it was like $2.50 a minute or something like that when I came. Nothing like what it is right now, no internet then, and so I would wait for letter to come, and it was like just for the letters to get back and it was like 10 days. If I write a letter, they would get it in the 10 days, and same with them. So I would just wait for that mailman to come. So, yeah. Wow, I had forgotten all these things. Looks like it's coming back.
Do you have any other stories you remember from that time?
So, nothing yet. Maybe it'll come up.
Tell me about your first week here in the United States.
First week, oh yeah, when we landed in New York, where his sister is, and it was his mother also came with us that time. So my husband was in Michigan, and he had a roommate. So his mother and sister, they said, well, you have a roommate, so you can't take her. So you go there and get your own apartment, and then she'll join you. So I came in January, so like 1st of February he got his own apartment, and then I flew back from New York to Michigan. So till then I had to stay with my sister, his sister and his mother, and and their family. So that was also hard because I didn't know them. I didn't, I guess survived everything.
What was the hardest thing to get used to here in the United States?
First, since it was winter, the weather, because of the cold, and it was really cold, and it was funny. I got a long coat, and my husband would make fun of me. He would say, when you walk, I can only see the coat walking. It's too long because, but I was really. Even now I feel more cold than any of my other kids or my husband. So I'm always decked up with layers. So.
Did you speak any English prior to coming?
Yes. So. Yeah, I was an engineer, and that was English medium over there. But it's a little different than the English over here, and accents and things like that. But yeah, it took a long time to get used to the accent though. When I was at Purdue, I had a teacher who talked very fast, and I was lost. Literally, I couldn't understand what she was saying, but I would take the notes and whatever she would write on the board, and then somehow go over it. So for first, I think first semester was a little harder because I could just understanding the accent and things like that. So after that, it was okay.
Does your family keep up any of the cultural traditions from India at home now?
Yes, I do, and I do all the festivals and whatever other religious traditions we used to follow over there, and I try to teach that to my kids. So I don't know if they'll continue that, but yeah, we do at home, and they know. So.
Do you still speak any of the languages in your home?
Yes, we speak our own native language. It's Kenkre, and my kids, they can speak too, but most of the time they'll answer back in English. But if when my mother-in-law would come here, she didn't know any English, so they were forced to talk to her in Kenkre, and she in fact taught them how to write in our language too when they were little. So they can read the alphabets, and they can. They're not fluent, but so they know a little bit. So.
How do you feel like your education experiences in India are different from what your kids are receiving here in the United States?
Well, here there's more technology, and we didn't have. In fact, I didn't even see a computer when I came here. So that was, it was in 80s, and it was not that common over there either. So here, my kids were born with all these gadgets and things like that, and I was a little bit afraid of technology because I was not, exposed, and it's like, oh, what if it breaks? It is so expensive and things. But kids don't think like that. Their toys are all electronic, and So I guess that's a change.
Have you had any experiences like with discrimination or insensitivity?
Well, when I came in 80s, right now nobody asks these questions. Anybody you know, like grocery stores, or I had a roofer one time, we called somebody to fix the roof, and he asked me where I was from, and he said, so I told him we are from India, and they said, when are you going back? So it was like a shocking question, because I don't know why he asked. Maybe it was just a conversation or he didn't want, but that question was asked few times in different places. But right now I have not seen anybody, I mean not heard that, nobody asked that question anymore. So maybe people are used to seeing more foreigners around, or I don't know, but that question was asked quite frequently then, not anymore.
Have your children come up against any of that, do you know?
I don't, maybe they have American accent, so maybe nobody asked them, so they haven't said, but there was incident when he was in kindergarten, so he came home and he asked me if he can color himself peach. And I just couldn't understand why. I said, why are you asking me that? Because he said, my teacher told me I have to color myself brown and everybody else is coloring themselves peach. Is it okay if I color myself peach? So, and then it just, bell just rang kind of. Then I said, yeah, you can color whatever you want, but you know, it's, but we are a little darker than the others, and I tried to kind of explain. Then I went and I talked to teacher, because teacher, she was a very nice lady, and he still loves that teacher. In fact, he told me other day that he goes to play basketball with his, he works for Fox Sports, so they go play basketball, and he said, somebody said, this so and so Bob or somebody is coming, and when they mentioned his last name, he said, oh, I remember Mrs. Kranitz. And then when he came, I believe he asked, I said, do you know? He said, Barbara, yeah, and that is my mom. And he was so happy. He said, he came home and he told me about it. So he still likes the teacher. So teacher, it was not the teacher, but it's just that the way she said that she just wanted him to know, you know, that that's who he is. And but I guess as kids don't look at the color, that kind of tells you that, because they just look at each other as kids, and I don't think anybody else picked on it. So then I didn't want him to feel like he's the only one who is brown or who is, you know, different than the others. So we started going to our temple more often. And I got involved in the temple, and I volunteered there, and I got involved with the school too. I did, like, you know, I would go on field trips and all those, not like a room mom, but, you know, help with the parties, and they used to have different things that time. So that way he didn't feel like he was the only one there, but there were not that many Indian kids in the school. So maybe that's, in his class he was the only one, if I remember right. So. But my daughter, she's 2 years younger, but she never had anything like that before.
What kind of experiences have you had being a woman from India working in the United States?
Well, yeah, I worked in GM as a contract employee for 3 years. I stayed home for about till my daughter went to kindergarten, because even though I had an engineering degree, we were like, should I, you know, that was a big thing, because I didn't know if I should leave them in the daycare and go. And finally me and my husband decided, no, one has to stay home. And you know, and I said, well, it's just 2 kids and we want to raise them right. And we made that decision, and I stayed home. And in fact, yeah, at work there was this guy who was a technician in our lab. And he kept saying a few times that, you guys come here and take our jobs. And I mean, and I just kind of looked at him, and I had like one guy from Iran who was working with me, one black guy, and he was the white American, and he was a technician, and rest of us were all engineers. And he would make those comments, and maybe he was a nice guy, but I don't know why, but that's probably he thought he could have done his bachelor's and came there as an engineer, but he had some associate's degree, I think, and he was a technician. But he made those kind of comments at the workplace. But other than that, nothing.
Have you gone through the citizenship process here?
Yes. Yeah, we did that in 90s sometime, and yeah, I'm an American citizen. And
what was that process like?
yeah, I had to read a lot of some history, and there were some questions which they wanted, they would ask at the interview, and well, it was good, I guess, and then I'm glad we did that. So
had you intended on staying in the United States when you first came over?
no, not really. My husband asked me that when we met before marriage. He said, I might come back to India. Do you have any issues? Because sometimes people, they didn't want to come back, and there were girls who wanted to just go out and they didn't want to come back to India and settle. I said, no, I don't have any issues. Even now I tell him, if you want to go back in fact they had asked him for a project in India, and I said, I'm fine if you have to go, but it didn't materialize, so we are still here. So
when you were younger, what did you want to do with your life?
well, I wanted to get out of India for some reason. I had that, I wanted to explore the world, look, so I don't know, I still remember that. And then this thing came, and that's just what I wanted, I guess. So I said, okay. He was a highly educated person, had a good job, nothing to complain about, good looks.
How do you think your personal history, your experiences, how you grew up, that kind of thing, affects your career choices?
I don't know how to put that, but whatever I learned back home, and some things were just you observe and you learn because nobody tells you. And here, I mean, you have to be careful what you say, what you do, and and you see other people saying things, and it does. I mean, I think my cultural background helps me decide when to say what and when not to say, and when to get into something and when not to. So, but sometimes the other thing is when you try to talk in English, you always try to translate what in your, you think in your language and then you translate that in English, and it doesn't come out the way it's supposed to. So that's my kids tell me that. Says, Mom, you're not supposed to say that way. And then I say, well, how do you think this is? Then I would tell them in my language, and they would say, oh no, this is how you should have said it. So I've gotten into trouble a few times because I kind of literally translate the way I think, and maybe that's a...
So on that topic, do you think in English or do you think in languages from India?
Oh, in my language, always. And then you kind of, even when you count, you always count, in the Indian, like, I don't know, but that's how I guess it works. And I've asked that to a few others. They also have said the same thing, because I guess that's your language when you started, so it's easier for you to kind of connect that too. So if you have to multiply, I usually multiply in Indian, and then
So you're fairly involved in the community. What drives you to be that way?
I enjoy volunteering, and I've always liked to help people. That's, and even back home, my family is into helping people, and I guess that I told you my grandfather was a lawyer for freedom fighters, so I have an aunt who is very much involved in the community and does a lot for the people. So, and then I enjoy it and I got involved, and I've continued that. I like that. I want to retire and just volunteer. So,
When you think of your nationality and your heritage, how do you think of yourself? How do you self-identify? Are you an American? Are you an Indian American? Or how do you think of yourself?
I call myself Indian American now, and I'm proud to be Indian American because, you know, I like some things from American culture and I like some things from Indian culture. So, and try to blend it together and make best of both cultures.
What does the American dream mean to you?
American dream, they said you can achieve whatever you want, right? So, and I wanted, I mean, I got what I wanted basically here. Nobody is telling me not to do if I come up with something, and my husband is pretty supportive of whatever I do. I am the chair for the Indian caucus of Michigan Democratic Party, so I am also the vice president for the Troy Foundation, you know, of Educational Excellence. That's, you probably heard of that. So it's part of Troy School Board. So, and I'm involved with community, Troy Community Coalition Prayer Breakfast. They have it every year, and I am on that committee. And they have another event called Celebrity Night Dinner. I'm involved with that. So I am on the board of, I was on the board of our temple, and I do different things at our temple. I was a chair for the youth committee for longest time, so I did a lot of events where all the Indian kids could come and they can, you know, because sometimes it's hard for the kids to come to temple and do things, so I would come up with something which they would like, and it was pretty successful. So I enjoy doing things and getting communities together and things like that. So,
As an immigrant to this country who's now been here for some time, what advice would you give to somebody who had just arrived?
be positive, mingle, mix with others, don't look down, and no stereotyping, just go with the flow.